diseases by monitoring the enzyme levels. It is used for different investigations, like routinely blood glucose is one of the tests that everybody knows, that we do blood glucose analysis with the help of an enzyme, glucose oxidase. Then another function is its research purposes. Like in forensic medicine, you use different restriction endonucleases to come to the conclusion for the suspect or different types of identities. So for the research purposes also we use these enzymes. Now coming on to their classifications. Classification is done in two ways. One is to classify the enzyme in this way depending upon the classes of an enzyme, and another is that we assign an enzyme commission number. So this classification of an enzyme is based on 6 different classes starting from 1 to 6. So the first is oxidoreductase. When we classify the enzyme as an oxidoreductase, this means that this has a capability of carrying out oxidation and reduction simultaneously. So you can name any of the dehydrogenase, like your pyruvate dehydrogenase, alpha keto dehydrogenase. So all the dehydrogenase, they belong to oxidoreductases. Then we have transferases. Transferases, they do the purpose of transferring a specific group. Like for example, methyl group could be transferred, phosphate group could be transferred. So all the transferases, they pick up a group from one substrate, they transfer it to another substrate. Say for example, your hexokinase. Your hexokinase take up a phosphate from ATP and transfer it to the OH group. Then we have hydrolases. Hydrolases, they break a bond, be it a carbon-carbon, carbon-nitrogen, carbon-sulfur bond, any type of a bond could be broken, but it requires mandatory requirement of water is there. So water has to be required. So all the digestive enzymes are hydrolases in nature, and you can quote down, say for example, urease. Urease is an enzyme that breaks down urea in presence of water to ammonia and carbon dioxide. But water is required here. Then we have isomerases. They interconvert the molecular forms of the substrate. Say fumarase. Fumarase is an isomerase. So interconversion of the isomeric forms is done by isomerases. Then we have lyases. Lyases, again, they break the bond, but it's a non-hydrolytic breakage. So water is not required here. For example, aldolases or decarboxylases, like pyruvate decarboxylase. So as the name is indicating, pyruvate would be decarboxylated and it results in the formation of an acetaldehyde. Then we have ligase. Ligase helps in the synthesis or joining or formation of new bonds. Like if a carboxylic group is attached to pyruvate, it becomes pyruvate carboxylase. So when pyruvate is carboxylated, it forms oxaloacetate. So these are the 6 classes and 6 class classification. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 has to be written in the same order. Say for example, if you are saying that I am talking about a class 3, it is taken for granted that it has to be hydrolase. So shuffling should not be there. This order is maintained. After oxidoreductase, it should be transferase, followed by it would be hydrolase, then isomerase, then ligase and lyase and then ligases. तो ये number भी important है और ये sequence भी important है. Then this is the latest type of classifying an enzyme, and this is known as enzyme commission number. Enzyme commission number is designated by 4 digits. First digit tells you about class, like for example, 1 is written, it is indicating that it's an oxidoreductase. Then if number 2 is written, then it is said that it's a subclass of an enzyme. Now if number 3 is written, then it is said to be a subclass of an enzyme. And the 4th one is indicating about its discovery, that is where the enzyme is registered after its discovery. So the 4th is telling you about that after the enzyme is being identified, what is its registry number. So this is a 4-digit classification and this is known as enzyme commission number. Now we can take an example of this enzyme commission number. like hexokinase. Hexokinase is a very commonly known enzyme and it's a glycolytic enzyme. Glycolysis is initiated with hexokinase. So this is the trivial name of this enzyme. Trivial matlab purana naam. Then we have a systematic name according to its kinetics, that what it is doing. So the systematic name of an hexokinase is ATP hexose phosphotransferase. So this is telling you that hexose has been phosphorylated, taking the phosphate from ATP, and the enzyme is a transferase. The reaction catalyzes that glucose in presence of ATP is converted to glucose 6-phosphate. The enzyme commission number for hexokinase is 2.7.1.1. So as 2 is written, this is telling you that you are talking about an enzyme which is a transferase. 7 belongs to phosphate. So it is telling you what is transferred? Phosphate is transferred. When phosphate is transferred, something must be there that is accepting the phosphate. So if alcohol is accepting the phosphate, one number is given to alcoholic group. So if 1 is written, this is taken for granted that alcohol is accepting the phosphate here. Alcohol is the acceptor rather. Then the fourth digit is 1. This means that this was the first enzyme identified and registered in the software. So if you are going to claim that you have identified and isolated a new hexokinase, the software is going to search for it. And if it is matches, then it will not be accepted as a newly identified enzyme. If it is matching, if it is saying that, yes, you have identified a new enzyme, it is an hexokinase coming from some other species or viral or bacterial origin, then the number would be accordingly designated, 10, 100, whatever the number is. But 2.7.1 will remain because it's a transferase. What is transferring is phosphate. What is accepting is alcohol. If the acceptor changes from alcohol to something else, the number is going to be changed. Then if we talk about an enzyme, something about the active site of enzyme is very important. Active site is that site to which the substrate comes and interacts, and then it is converted to a product. Now, according to the active site, this is a tertiary folding of a protein, because we are talking about enzymes which are proteins in nature. That gives rise to the formation of an active site with specific sequences of amino acids aligned together that can accept a particular substrate. Say if a substrate is positively charged, your enzyme is going to have an alignment of negatively charged amino acids, and that alignment is fixed. But there were two models that were given and proposed to explain the activity of an active site. One of the model was said to be a lock and key model, and this lock and key model said that the active site is rigid. Substrate will come, identify, bind, product would be formed. Then what happened was that when we talked of a lock and key model, this is saying that your active site is rigid. So the model failed because it could not explain the reversible reactions of an enzyme. There are a number of reactions where the steps are reversible. So the substrate will be converted to product. The same enzyme will take up the product at the substrate and will revert it back. So if the active site would have been rigid, conversion back would not be possible. So this was first reason why lock and key model failed. The second reason was that an enzyme has multiple substrates. So if the active site would be rigid, how come the incoming multiple substrate interact with the same enzyme? Another reason for the failure of lock and key model. The third reason is for the failure of this model that inside a cell, we have number of modulators or inhibitors, which are substrate analogs. So how come the analogs come and interact? So these three reasons were the logic behind the failure of lock and key model, which was given by Emil Fischer. Then came the induced fit model by Koechlin. According to this induced fit model, the substrate comes, interacts with the active site. You know that the protein structure is dynamic, it can change itself. So the active site is remodeled by the substrate through its interaction, and then the enzyme substrate complex is formed, converting into the product. So the induced fit model was accepted because it is inducing the fitting of the substrate into an enzyme. So these two models are there, a lock and key model and the induced fit model. Lock and key failed, induced fit model accepted. one of the thing about an enzyme is that since an enzyme is a protein, so this enzyme, which is a protein, for its full activity will require something that is other than the protein part. So that other than the protein part, when it is attached to the enzyme, which is a non-protein part, that is known as a cofactor. So only protein part is your apoenzyme and the non-protein part is your cofactor. Apoenzyme plus your cofactor forms a fully functional enzyme, that is your holoenzyme. Now, if your cofactor, which is a non-protein factor, happens to be inorganic in nature, usually they are metal ions. And if these cofactors, they are organic in nature, they are said to be coenzymes. Like all your vitamin B complexes, starting from B1 thiamine, thiamine pyrophosphate, that acts as a coenzyme. Then say for example flavin, FAD, FMN, niacin, NAD, NADH. So these are all organic in nature and they are attached to the enzyme and therefore they are known as coenzymes. Now if the metal ion or if your coenzyme is tightly associated, then it is known as a prosthetic group. So if your metal ion is tightly associated, that becomes the part of your enzyme and the enzyme is known as metalloenzyme. So you cannot remove it from the enzyme. If you're removing it, you're losing the structure and function of an enzyme. Now, if the presence of an enzyme is required, only if the presence of the metal is required for the activation of an enzyme, then it is not a prosthetic group. And now your enzyme will be named as metal activated enzyme. So metalloenzymes have tightly bound metal ion as a prosthetic group, and metal activated enzyme needs the presence of the metal ion for its activation. Like hexokinase requires magnesium ion, but magnesium ion is never the part of hexokinase. Carbonic anhydrase requires zinc. Zinc is tightly associated with carbonic anhydrase. If you remove zinc, functionality is lost. Now, in case of a coenzyme, if your coenzyme is loosely bound, it's just associated and it has a capability of dissociating, like in the reaction which is mentioned below. When lactate is converted to pyruvate and pyruvate back to lactate, you require the formation of NADH or NAD plus. So in this case, NAD plus is removed. So it's not a prosthetic group. It is not a part of the enzyme. So in such cases, you call your coenzyme as a substrate, provided three things are met. One, it is dissociated. Number two, if your substrate is undergoing oxidation, your coenzyme should be reduced. So the opposite reaction has to be required. And number three, that the formation of your coenzyme to act as a co-substrate should be far more important as the formation of the product. So if NAD is formed here, NAD is more important as compared to lactic acid because lactic acid causes number of problems to the system. It causes lactic acidosis, it causes hyperuricemia, whereas NAD is a very important regulator of overall carbohydrate and lipid metabolism. So it's required, it's far more important than the production of lactic acid. So in this case, your coenzyme would be called as a co-substrate provided all the three conditions are met. Dissociability, opposite reaction, and the importance for the production of the co-substrate compared to the product. Now there are certain units that are associated with the enzyme. Like when we say that your enzyme is a protein. Okay, well, it's a protein. But when we measure a protein, we say that, say, for example, your total protein in your plasma or in your serum is 6 to 8 grams per deciliter. But when you are talking about an enzyme, you have to work out with certain units that are associated with the enzyme. Why? Because production of an enzyme is important, definitely. But production of an active enzyme is more important. If your enzyme is there in your system and it is not active, it is useless. So this is a type of a protein which is talked in terms of its activity rather than in terms of its concentration. There are a number of genetic disorders where your system would be saying that yes, enzyme is there, but the activity is not there. So it's useless, it's not carrying out the required metabolic step. So the blockage and accumulation of toxic components would be there. So when we talk of an enzyme, we do not talk in terms of grams or micrograms per deciliter, rather we talk in terms of its activity. So there are two units which tell you about the amount of an enzyme. One, an international unit, IU, and second, the CATL, KATAL. So these are statements which has to be quoted as such. So international unit is the amount of enzyme that catalyzes the conversion of 1 micromole of substrate into product per minute under optimum conditions. So here importance is the conversion of 1 micromole of substrate per minute under optimum conditions. On the other hand, another unit that defines the amount of an enzyme is the one which is stated as that this is the amount of enzyme that catalyzes the conversion of 1 mole of substrate into product per second under optimum conditions or under defined conditions. So the difference is that international unit is 1 micromole of substrate into product per minute. This is 1 mole of substrate into product per second. Therefore, there is a relationship between 1 CATL and international unit, that 1 CATL is equal to 6 into 10 to the power 7 international units. So this international unit and CATL tells you about the enzyme. Now, another thing that is associated with enzyme is its specific activity. Specific activity is an indicator of purity. Why do we talk of a specific activity? The reason is that out of the total enzyme that you are talking about, which is present inside a cell, which one is the pure form of an enzyme with full activity? That is important. बहुत सारा एंजाइम बना लिया सेल ने, लेकिन एक्टिव है, कम एक्टिव है, बहुत कम एक्टिव है, या बहुत अच्छे से एक्टिव है. That is an indicator which is talked in terms of specific activity. So specific activity is an indicator of purity, and this is number of units of enzyme per total milligram of protein that you are talking about. So units of enzyme, the upper one, either international unit or CATL, divided by the milligram of protein, the protein part of an enzyme, the enzyme that you are talking about. सारा protein नहीं सेल का, वो वाला protein जिसे enzyme कह रहे हैं. Then, if we are talking about an enzyme, first concern is that how efficient your enzyme is. कितनी उसकी efficiency है कि वो product substrate से product बना ले. So efficiency we say in terms of the turnover number. So turnover number is defined as number of moles of substrate transformed per minute per mole of an enzyme. So here the enzyme is fixed. On the above two, we were talking about the amount of an enzyme. So this enzyme was variable. Substrate was fixed. In international unit and CATLs, the substrate was fixed. In turnover number, it's per mole of an enzyme, how efficient your enzyme is per mole. So number of moles of substrate that are being transformed in 1 minute by 1 mole of an enzyme under optimum condition. This is a turnover number. And this is given represented by small k and small p. And this is the maximum velocity of an enzyme divided by the total enzyme that is present in international units. So velocity is given by micromoles per liter per minute, and the enzyme is given by micromoles per liter. So turnover number has a unit of minute inverse. So these are the 4 definitions that you have to learn as it is, as they are given. So they are learned as statements. Then if we talk about the kinetic activity of an enzyme, what enzyme does is that it lowers the activation energy without altering the equilibrium. So delta G is not changed here. What is changed is the activation energy. Why? Because if you look with an enzyme catalyzed reaction, a simple enzyme catalyzed reaction, an enzyme combines with a substrate and forms an enzyme substrate complex. So this is a substrate binding step. So what is happening here is that the substrate which was randomly moving in your blood or in your cellular fluid, that has now been trapped by the enzyme. So it is now oriented and fixed. So randomization is minimized. So when randomization is minimized, the energy, the conversion of the substrate to the product would be faster. So this catalytic step is enhanced by the enzyme. Now in this reaction, we are assuming that one substrate is combining with just one enzyme to form a one central complex that is an enzyme substrate complex. So for all the kinetics that we will be studying on the incoming discussions would be with few assumptions. One is that this is a unireactant system. Unireactant means that one substrate interacting with just one enzyme. This is one assumption. Second assumption would be that there is just one central complex that is giving rise to an enzyme and the product. Otherwise, if you look for all the human cellular enzymes that catalyze the reaction, even if you look for the glycolytic enzyme, we write glucose plus ATP in presence of glucokinase or hexokinase being converted into glucose 6-phosphate, ADP is removed. So you are having two substrates. One is your glucose, another is your ATP. But assumption says that we are deriving all the statements or the equations, all the pharmacokinetics by assuming that all your cellular reactions are based on a unireactant system. This is an assumption that was done by a scientist whose name was Michaelis and Menton. So he said two things: do the kinetics with a unireactant system and convert it into multi-reactant system. Use one central complex and then study the enzyme. These are the assumptions that were done for later studies. Now, inside our cell, we have the enzymes which are carrying out number of processes, and they are present in different physical forms and catalyze the same chemical reactions. So these enzymes, which are present in different physical forms but catalyze the same reactions, they are termed as isozymes. And their behavior is different in terms of their electrophoretic mobility, in terms of different kinetic properties, in terms of their amino acid sequence as well as composition. Now, isozymes are of three types: true isozymes, allozymes, and isoforms. A true isozyme is coded by a different gene on a different chromosome, and they are present in different organs. And every isozyme, which is a true isozyme, has to be there in a normal human system. Say, for example, amylase. You have salivary amylase, you have pancreatic amylase. If the system is normal, both salivary as well as pancreatic amylases have to be there. They are from different organs, they are from different chromosomes, they are from different genes. So this is a true isozyme. Then we have allozymes. As the name itself is telling you, that these are the enzymes which are coming from different alleles of the genes, like glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, G6PD. G6PD is an enzyme that if it is deficient, it causes certain types of hemolytic anemias. But because it is an allozyme, there are more than 400 known allozymes of G6PD, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. But one type would be there in one human, not all the types. So one allele, one enzyme present in a single individual. Then the third is isoform. Isoforms are a class of enzymes which are post-translationally modified to create different forms of an enzyme, like alkaline phosphatase. When alkaline phosphatase protein is synthesized, it is glycosylated, attachment of sugar residues. And the amount of sugar that is attached and the site of attachment is different. So we have different isoforms of an alkaline phosphatase, which is not different in terms of its protein content or protein composition. Rather, it is different because it is destined to different organs, and every organ handles this alkaline phosphatase on its own terms. And therefore, bone alkaline phosphatase is different from placental alkaline phosphatase. That is different from intestinal alkaline phosphatase. How? Depending on the post-translational modification. This is an isoform. So we have three classes, three different physical forms catalyzing the same reaction: a true isozyme, an allozyme, and an isoform. Now, how they are different? They are different in terms of
Ma'am, can you please repeat isoform once?
Isoform. Okay, isoforms are those enzymes which are synthesized as a protein in same composition. But once the protein is synthesized, it is sent to different organs. then what happens is that every organ will handle this protein, that is an enzyme, accordingly. And what is the post-translational modification? Attachment of different non-protein residues. So in case of an alkaline phosphatase, that post-translational modification is glycosylation, attachment of carbohydrate. So alkaline phosphatases, they are present as isoforms because of the difference of the amount and site of carbohydrate that is attached. So post-translationally modified different forms of enzymes are known as isoforms. And in the same way, like true isozymes, all the isoforms are usually they are there in a single human system, in a single individual. So they are protein terms, they are same. Post-translational modification terms, they are different. So as we said, okay. So as we said that these physical forms of an enzyme, they are variable in terms of their electrophoretic mobility, in terms of how they are behaving towards the heat, either they are resistant or they are stable, or in terms of the inhibitor, how they behave towards an inhibitor, their Km values, what is the cofactor that is associated, where is it localized, which type of tissue they are present, and how they respond towards different antibodies. Because their amino acid sequences may be different, so they will be having different specific antibody for each isozymes. So these physical properties, they help us to identify a particular type of an isozyme. Like for example, glucokinase, hexokinase. Glucokinases and hexokinases, they are true isozymes. Both are present in the human system simultaneously. They are variable in terms of an Km value. Glucokinase has high Km value, hexokinase has low Km value. So are the properties depending on which we can identify and isolate a particular isozyme, like lactate dehydrogenase. Enzyme commission number for lactate dehydrogenase is 1.1.1.227. And when lactate dehydrogenase is studied, it is known that this is a tetrameric protein. Like hemoglobin is a tetrameric protein. Hemoglobin has 2 alpha types and 2 beta types, or 2 alpha, 2 gamma. That's it. It's a tetrameric protein. In the same way, lactate dehydrogenase is also a tetrameric protein. This is based, this tetramer is formed by M type or a H type polypeptide. So there are different combinations for this lactate dehydrogenase to be formed. So if you look for the combination, all the 4 polypeptides could be of H type. So it is H4, which is named as lactate dehydrogenase 1. And this is located in the heart. Now, there could be a situation when the 3 polypeptides could be of H type and 1 of M type. That is known as lactate dehydrogenase 2 in RBCs. So if you look for the concentration wise, they are also different. In serum, the highest concentration is for lactate dehydrogenase 2. Followed by this is lactate dehydrogenase 3 and then 1. Now, similarly, the possible probability of the combination of formation of lactate dehydrogenase is all the 4 of H type or all the 4 of M type and the intermediate one. So lactate dehydrogenase has 5 isozymes which are physically different. Chemically, they catalyze the same reaction, pyruvate to lactate and back lactate to pyruvate. All the 5 forms are present in the normal human system and they are localized in different organs. Their electrophoretic mobility, as you look in this electrophoretogram, that is a real electrophoretogram, their mobility is quite different. Their concentration is different. Their organ location is also different. So this is how a lactate dehydrogenase is present as a tetrameric enzyme. Now, if at all your system is a normal system, there are a number of factors that affect an enzyme activity. And we are talking about 3 important factors. One is your temperature. So if you look for the temperature, the plot for the temperature is a bell-shaped curve. And for the human system, when we are plotting a velocity versus temperature, this bell-shaped curve shows a maximum activity at 37 degrees. On the either side, the activity declines. Initially, the activity is increased because when you increase the temperature, you are providing kinetic energy. Otherwise, if you go on increasing the temperature, temperature is one of the denaturant. So protein gets denatured, enzyme gets denatured, activity declines. So there are different conditions on which your cell would be facing these temperature variations. They could be climatic variations. Some of the conditions, let's say for example, if a person is chronic alcoholic, he or she would be facing hypothermic conditions. So activity would come down. There are number of drugs, say for example, there was one of the drug that is banned nowadays, that is 2,4-DNPH, 2,4-dinitrophenol, that was given as an anti-obesity drug. The reason why it was banned was that it used to create hyperthermic conditions. Temperature was elevated, so enzyme activity was lost. So this is about the behavior of an enzyme according to the temperature. Then we have pH. Like we have a single curve for the temperature, pH is talked about depending on the type of the enzyme that you are active at pH 7. Alkaline phosphatases are active at pH 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. So you have to name enzyme. Yes. Pardon? So you need your mic is on. Zainab, your
No, ma'am, it is off.
it's showing. I think that is creating an echo. Okay. So if it in terms of the substrate curve is a rectangular hyperbolic curve. And this rectangular hyperbolic curve is giving you a very important information about the Km value. And Km value is that substrate concentration at which you get half the maximum velocity. So Km is known as Michaelis and Menton's constant. This is your Michaelis and Menton's constant. Now what Km is the substrate concentration at which you get half the maximum velocity. Now if you compare the Km values for glucokinase and hexokinase, it is seen that glucokinase has a higher Km value. This indicates that glucokinase requires higher substrate to attain the velocity. Whereas hexokinase requires the concentration to be lower for the substrate. Now, if for the comparison between glucokinase and hexokinase, then glucokinase is present in the liver as well as the beta cells of pancreas, and this is an enzyme which handles the tissue, which handles the blood glucose levels as quickly as the changes are made. Whereas hexokinase has a lower Km value. So this is indicating that as the glucose is entering into the bloodstream, it would be tackled up by the hexokinase and it would be either metabolized or stored. So depending on the Km value, what Km is telling? The Km is telling that it is inversely proportional to the binding affinity of the substrate compared to the enzymes with higher Km values. So it is inverse proportionality that is shown. So we can say that glucokinase, if we are saying that it is a higher Km value, this means that it is going to require more and more substrate. So the binding affinity would be lower. Now this Km gives very important information, and usually we get a question on this, that what information can be drawn from the Km values. So first thing, that you can get an idea about the substrate concentration inside a cell. Secondly, that Km tells you about the affinity towards a particular substrate. Thirdly, the greater the number of Km values, the number of Km values are going to tell you the number of isozymes that are present. Then, according to the Km value, you can talk about a tissue distribution of an enzyme. And if you are able to know what is the Vmax to Km value, then higher the Vmax to Km ratio, the better is the substrate for those enzymes which are capable of taking up multiple substrates. So these 5 informations can be drawn from the Km values. Now, when we observed about this plot, about this substrate, which is known as a rectangular hyperbolic curve, this is a Michaelis and Menton's plot. And this plot shows a linearity to very small concentration of the substrate. So if you're going to change the substrate concentration or any ligand, ligand is something that interacts with the enzyme or with the receptor. So here we are talking about the substrate, so it's okay. But when we use this plot, instead of substrate, we can use any drug that could interact with the enzyme. We can use any inhibitor that may interact with the enzyme. So this smaller linear portion could be exploited because this is showing a direct proportionality. Otherwise, if you look here, for the in between, there is a mixed order kinetics and then there is a zero order kinetics, indicating that if you go on increasing the substrate concentration, you cannot decipher anything about the maximum velocity of an enzyme. So this plot, which is known as Michaelis and Menton's plot, is not a very good plot for studying enzyme kinetics. So a better plot to study enzyme kinetics is known as an LW plot or a Lineweaver-Burk plot. So a Lineweaver-Burk plot is used for studying all the enzyme kinetics. So we have an equation that is known as Michaelis and Menton's equation, which is valid for that rectangular hyperbolic curve. And that is known as V is equal to Vmax S divided by Km plus S. Now, if you take an inversion of this on the two sides, we get an equation that is known as a double reciprocal of Lineweaver-Burk's equation. And this equation 1 upon V naught is equal to Km divided by Vmax S plus 1 upon Vmax is equal to Y is equal to Mx plus C. That is a linear equation. Now, if you plot this, 1 over S on the x-axis and 1 over V instead of V on the y-axis, we get a linear plot with two intercepts. X-axis intercept is indicating a minus 1 over Km value, and on the y-axis, the intercept is indicating 1 over Vmax value. Now, in this case, if you go on increasing the concentration of the substrate or your inhibitor or your ligand, you can easily calculate what is happening to the Km and the Vmax value. So Lineweaver-Burk's equation is a double reciprocal of Michaelis and Menton's equation, and this is always a better curve to study about the enzyme kinetics. So this equation is comparable with y is equal to mx plus b. It is written here. Slope of this curve, x is the x-axis, y is the y-axis, m is here the slope, c is the intercept. So slope is given by Km divided by the Vmax value. Now here the slope is your Km by Vmax of a Lineweaver-Burk's plot. Whereas when we were talking about the uses of this Km value, Vmax upon Km was the best substrate. So higher the Vmax divided by Km was your best substrate. So if you happens to know about the slope, taking an inverse of the slope will tell you about the best substrate, because that is just the opposite. The denominator becomes the numerator and the numerator becomes the denominator. So this is the equation that we need to remember, that Michaelis-Menton's equation is one type, is equal to Vmax S divided by Km plus X, the upper one, and the lower one is your double reciprocal of this Michaelis and Menton, which is known as Line-Weaver-Burks equation. So these are the two equations. The better one is the Line-Weaver-Burks equation. Why? Because it is maintaining a linearity at all concentrations of the ligand that you need to study. So at this point, we will be stopping here. And what would be remembered by you is that we are going to use this equation and this plot for rest of the pharmacokinetics of an enzyme, where we are going to study about the behaviors of different inhibitors and drugs. So this is all for today. So anything about this discussion? Anything about the enzymes, fundamentals of enzymes?
Ma'am, would you please explain why the earlier one was stopped?
Why the?
Why the Km value was not good enough over the Lineberger? What was that?
अच्छा अच्छा हाँ देखिए, see, this is, if you look, this is the plot where you are plotting the substrate on the x-axis and velocity on the y-axis. Now if you look for this plot, at the substrate concentration, even less than 5% of the substrate shows a linearity. Then if you go on increasing the substrate concentration, there is a curve that is observed here. This curve is your mixed order kinetics part. Then there is a slope, a steady state is observed. So zero order kinetics. So if you want to look what is happening when we are adding a substrate or an inhibitor or any drug or any toxin to the enzyme, what is happening to its velocity? After certain concentration, it becomes very difficult to analyze because it has been stopped to change, no change in the velocity could be observed here. So if you increase at very high concentrations of the substrate or different ligands, ligand वो चीज है जो एंजाइम से किसी भी तरह इंटरैक्ट करे, तो अगर हम सबस्ट्रेट की जगह कोई लाइगेंड की वैल्यू यहाँ रखें तो हम ये नहीं पता कर पाएंगे कि उसकी वेलोसिटी में कमी हो रही है या बढ़ रहा है. क्यों? क्योंकि एक थोड़े सबस्ट्रेट के कंसंट्रेशन के बाद एक स्टेडी स्टेट आ गई. अब आप बढ़ाते जाइए, वो तो जीरो ऑर्डर पे वो सीधी लाइन खींचती चली जाएगी, हमें पता ही नहीं चलेगा. इसकी जो इक्वेशन होती है वो होती है V इज इक्वल टू वी मैक्स एस अपॉन के एम प्लस एच. तो माइकेलिस एंड मेंटन को जब रेसिप्रोकेट इन्वर्ट किया दोनों साइड्स पर, इक्वेशन के दोनों साइड्स पर, तो हमें जो इक्वेशन मिली वो इक्वेशन ऑफ लीनियरिटी थी. जब हमें इक्वेशन ऑफ लीनियरिटी मिल गई तो हम सेम चीजों को लाइगेंड वर्सेस वेलोसिटी वी आर प्लॉटिंग, बट जस्ट द रेसिप्रोकल ऑफ इट, 1 over v divided by 1 over s instead of v by s. Now you are having a linear plot. All the information is there. We can get the Vmax. What is the Vmax increasing or decreasing? We can talk of the Km value, which is a very important indicator for an enzyme. क्यों? क्योंकि वो एंजाइम को आपको बहुत सारी प्रॉपर्टीज के बारे में बताता है. तो ये linearity maintain रहेगी. Now keep on increasing the substrate concentration and study what is happening to the velocity of an enzyme or what is happening to the Km value. Instead of the substrate, you can plot the concentration of any toxin, any drug, and study the kinetics. So linear direct proportionality would be observed, which was not with the case of the Michaelis-Menton's curve. Anything
Thank you,
else?
ma'am.
Ma'am, in classification of enzyme, there is oxidoreductase, transferase, hydrolase, lyase, isomerase, ligase, or last three, ma'am. There is confusion.
Yeah. Oxidoreductase, transferases, hydrolases, isomerases, lyases and ligases.
मैम पहले हमने पढ़ा है, मैं एक
अरे
बार
नहीं,
पढ़ा
ये
था.
गलत है स्लाइड. इट्स lyases, isomerases and ligases.
यस मैम.
हाँ ठीक है, ये चीज, ये लाइजेस जो है ये 4th पोजीशन पे होगा. ये स्लाइड मैंने नेट से लिए, दिस इज इनकरेक्ट. ये लाइजेस 4th पे होगा और आइसोमरेजेस जो है वो 5th पे होगा. तो 1
Yes, ma'am.
ऑक्सीडेज है, 2 ट्रांसफरेज है, 3 हाइड्रोलेज है, Then it would be lyases, isomerases, and ligases.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Will explain co-substrate.
क्या चीज?
Co-substrate.
Co-substrate. See, co-substrate is first thing, it is organic. So it would be a coenzyme. All the co-substrates are coenzymes because they are organic. Now, if your